in the weather.
I know I was at one yesterday and we were on a field and the wind was just blowing and this little girl in her dress, she was just shaking.
I know it. I saw kids like that also. They wanted to look good with the high heels, the painted toenails, and I had boots and I thought, oh, I felt bad for them.
All right, we are off and running. So
great.
Turn it over.
Well, welcome to the monthly meeting of the RMSEL board. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Carrie Olson and I serve on the Denver Public Schools Board of Education and as RMSEL's board president. Like all meetings of our board, this meeting is open to anyone who wishes to attend, and our meeting is now in session and will be streamed via YouTube. We'll begin with introductions and we'll start with some of our board members participating virtually today due to graduations. So Anne, if you'd like to start, and then we'll pop over to Becky and then Michelle.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for making this option available. Very helpful. I am Ann Egan with the Cherry Creek School District. I came in 2019, and I have been serving on this committee for the last couple months, although this is only my second meeting. So thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Ann. Becky?
Hi, Becky Myers. I'm Douglas County School Board, brand new. So feel like I'm still in the learning process and just trying to do more listening. Thank you, though.
Thank you, Becky. Michelle?
Good morning. I'm Michelle Ortiz from the Aurora Public Schools Board of Education.
Thank you, Michelle. Angela, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Angela Christensen, Littleton Public Schools. Yeah. Hi, everyone, Brianna Mestes, the Public Education and Business Coalition.
And I'm Chris Redito, Enrollment Coordinator for RMSEL.
Thank you. And everybody knows you.
Chad, thank you for being here this morning in person and live on the interwebs. Thank you.
So our next agenda item is to approve the minutes from the April 19th, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Or actually, we move first of all to approve this agenda, then the minutes. I know last time we got that, I got that wrong as well. So first of all, do we have a motion to approve the agenda for today?
I move to approve the agenda for Tuesday, May 24th, 2022.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Great. Motion passes. Now we'll approve the minutes from the April 19th, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 19th meeting?
I move to approve the minutes from the April 19th, 2022.
Thank you. Do I have a second? And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes, and yes, bless you. And with that, I will now turn it over to Chad for our executive director report. Thank you.
Great. Well, here we are, last day with kids. It's going to be amazing. 100 high school kids made it out for their final overnight trip of the school year post finals. They finished their finals last Friday, and grades were due at the conclusion of the week. This is a special week for us here at RMSEL because we still have passage presentations on Wednesday and Thursday, 2 full days of gathering with community and over 125 volunteers to make that happen. So those are really exciting things that are going on, special day for teachers and staff and kids and families. We have successfully navigated a third year in a global pandemic, and I'm just proud of this community and the people that make this place wonderful, and just a celebratory day. So I'll jump right into my report here that you have in your folders as well. Just want to begin. We are in hopefully the final phase of negotiation for our IGA today. This multi-district collaborative partnership, the RMSEL Board of Cooperative Education Services, continues to be a unique and prosperous organization. Next year marks 30 years of the BOCES and the operation of RMSEL. As a school and a community, we look forward to our continuous growth and achievement in service of our K-12 learning community. I want to recognize all of you current board members who've been stewards of this innovative model and partnership, and our past board members and board presidents and those individuals who have made this happen. We also need to extend a special thanks to our district legal teams who worked on this during a busy time of the year, as well as staff members who donated their time and energy to making sure this renewal happens. While this leadership is invaluable, I also want to thank our parent community, students, and the 29 years of RMSEL alumni for lifting up the mission, visions, and values of this place. This community exemplifies servant leadership as we all work together to enhance our program and offer experiential learning to current and future kids. We are crew, not passengers. This is important today as when it was spoken over a century ago by Kurt Hahn. So thank you to everybody for making this happen. Today's the end of the school year, and the last 3 months have been an infusion of inspiration, joy, and optimism within our school, the metro community, and public schools across our great nation. While we revel in a return to a sense of normal, we must reflect and appreciate the work of this community over the past year. We began schooling a continuation of the 3rd year of a global pandemic. We did so with poise, compassion, and an adequate degree of pessimism. At the same time, we moved into a new campus, adjusting to setting up classrooms, preparing to welcome students. Once again, a dynamic team of educators exhibit the ability to evolve at a moment's notice in service of continued educational opportunities. As the calendar year continued, we departed for 2 weeks to rejuvenate, just to be greeted by the most infectious wave of the pandemic to date. Again, this community pivoted, canceled events, shifted school events, and adjusted to remain operational and supporting students. As the Omicron wave subsided, we moved quickly to reschedule exhibition night, crew trips, enrichments, and celebrations of learning to conclude the year. Working in public education carries an immense responsibility as teachers guide the lives of our children as an extension of your families. This responsibility was equally as great this year. Thank you to our community for working together to serve our kids. While attendance for all 387 students concludes today with the last day of school in session, we jump into this important work of passage and graduation. Passage and graduation mark a celebration of learning, culmination of the portfolio process. We will come together to recognize the accomplishments of our students and share this with our community at large. At this time, we do not have any restrictions for gathering as a community within the city and county of Denver. We've split the 3rd and 5th grade ceremonies, which are historically combined, to provide more space in the community room as we gather. The community is welcome to participate in these events and respectfully may mask as a safety measure at their discretion. These are the times of those events. Just remember those first 4 are here. If you are in the neighborhood and you want to swing by, you are welcome to attend those. And then the senior graduation is off campus in the calendar invitation link that I sent to everyone, Colorado and Hamden at the Unified Church. For our students, 4 o'clock, roughly 6 to 6:30 conclusion, depending on how windy our staff tend to be, which we are. So just be prepared for an amazing night of sharing graduation with a group of high school seniors who have been in high school for the duration of the last 4 years, but a dynamic and disruptive time for these final 3 years. Getting excited about next year. We conclude this week with staff, students, and community, and then our administrative team, along with our instructional coach, will be on campus working to finalize plans for the year for the first 2 weeks of June, and then we return to campus as a full team on July 25th. We look forward to completing our EL work plan, refining community systems and structures, moving classrooms, purchasing furniture, and additional curricular resources, and any final details in support of a great start to the year. At this time, we still have vacancies for a special education learning specialist full-time and a 0.6 world language Spanish teacher. So if you know anyone that would like to come join the RMSEL community, that's all of our board members and anybody watching in virtual world. We need those 2 positions filled. And then finally, this one's a big celebration. You'll hear us celebrate with Marcy as well at graduation. But I would like the board to join me in thanking our Director of Educational Operations, Marcy Elder, for her 11 years of service to our community and students. I'm excited to share with our community that Marcy will not be far away and continue as a leader in the Expeditionary Learning Schools Network as the new principal at Tollgate Elementary School. So exciting opportunity for Marcy as well as the students at Tollgate. So big thank you to Marcy. She is Juggling subs right now on the final day of school with 2 teachers infected in the last 24 hours. So we're doing all the things to make it work, but super proud of Marcy, and Marcy will be our graduation speaker this year.
Nice.
She's been with these kids for 11 years. And so some of them first grade through graduation. It's a special time.
That's impressive.
She's feeling as busy as ever. I've invested in our community and finalizing things and starting with her new community.
Congratulations to her. Go ahead. No, yep.
Can you tell me how many senior graduated?
Um,
Or even all of the passages? How many you have in each one, or is that too much?
Seniors is 16, I think.
16.
16 or 17. We could count real quick. 16, 17 seniors.
Sorry for asking that
Nope.
question ahead of time.
And then across the other grade levels, it's 25.
25.
So 25 thirds, 25 fifths, 25 or 50 eighth, and then 25 tenths.
I really appreciate getting all of the calendar invites to all of those. That's really helpful. I have another expo that day, but I will try and attend some of those, and I'll be there for graduation. So it's exciting to be able to see RMSEL's graduation for those of you who have not yet experienced it. Other questions and comments about Chad's report? From anyone?
Michelle, congratulations. You're getting a great leader in Aurora Public Schools. Marcy won't be too far away, so we're glad to share.
That's great. Michelle, say that again. You cut out a bit.
I said, yes, thank you. We're excited to have her.
That's great. Well, Chad, I just want to thank you again for all your hard work over the past year. One more time as we're moving through the pandemic, and all of your rapid response to everything, and really making sure staff and students are safe and learning, and still continuing with the trips. That's amazing. So getting everybody out. And I know I met Chad last Friday, and they had gotten their kindergartners up at 5 in the morning to bring them back to Denver due to the blizzard that was coming in, to make sure that they were safe. So I can't imagine getting a bunch of 25 kindergartners up at 5 in the morning and driving 3 hours back to Denver. So I just really appreciate you and your whole staff. A big thank you to all your teachers and the staff, and Julie and Chris as well, for all of your coordinating on this. So, and I definitely will pass on, since I'm at University of Denver and teacher education preparation program, I'll pass on these 2 openings to Betsy Leonard, and make sure that she knows, so she can pass them on to all the students.
Put a special plug for PBC. That's your special education teacher development.
Yeah, we definitely are in need of more teachers. So great. Well, thank you, Chad, for that report. Next item on our agenda is open forum. Do we have anyone signed up for open forum?
Nope.
All right, we will move on. Our next agenda item is the consent agenda. We have item 1, personnel matters, and item number 2, the 2021-2022 supplemental budget. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say nay. The motion passes. And with that, we will move on to our discussion item, the 2022-2023 budget. And with that, I bet I'm turning it over to Julie.
So everyone should have had in their packet 2 budgets, the supplemental, which you just approved. And if you flip on beyond that one, there's the actual budget for next year. This budget reflects 390 students at 9,840.43 is our PPR that we're going to get. So if you go through that budget, you can see I used the supplemental budget, even though it has been approved quite yet, because that's the last one before this one. You can see the difference in the dollar change column for every single item on this budget. Probably something that's of most note is further back in the budget. We started this year trying something new and having an early bird registration. So instead of putting all 390 kids through registration in the couple days in July, August that we do this. We moved it to where we would give a $50 discount off the fees and a sweatshirt if you do it early now. So
That's great.
we have a lot that have taken us up on this. So if you look back in there, there's it's on page 4, page 5. Under the fee discounts taken, that number is quite a bit higher than it's been before, by about $11,000 because of the free $50 we're giving away. What's happened a lot is that families are actually paying the fees in full for next year. They're not just paying the half, they're just taking care of it. So there's not much else of note in this budget. They're real similar to what we've done in the past. You'll see some changes as you go through for classroom renovation, construction, general, those kinds of things. Since we just renovated the building this past year and a half, we don't need the amount that we had in there before. Discretionary expense has gone down quite a bit for this year because of monies that have come in from ESSER and CARES Act and all those things prior to now. But everything else is basically just a tweaking of the general administrative budgets.
One thing of note is you'll see in the place I like to see it most specifically is post page 6 is Schedule A. When you see reds on here, and some places you're seeing individuals that are coming on board new with transition, and then you'll see other line items, for example, like in lower school where you see the final employee of the line item about 3/4 of the way down the page, Bailey K. That's with our strategic initiative to split kindergarten into 2 13-person classrooms. And then if you go further down at the final there under our associate teacher educational aid positions, to note, you'll see in the far right columns, we believe right now within the Denver metro area, it would be great for all of our staff, teachers, leadership, support staff to receive significant rates of pay increase. However, rates of pay increase to the degree of inflation and the cost of living are not attainable within public education. However, we do believe that all of our staff are part of this crew and community, and all of our employees will receive full benefit packages now. So everybody that works at RMSEL has a full benefit package that includes classified employees, associate teachers, aides. And that's really important because you give someone a couple dollars an hour increase. While that is important and necessary here in the metro area, one ER visit kind of takes all of that away from someone who doesn't have health benefits. And so we believe that it's valuable to make sure everybody that's an employee here has health benefits. Know that that's not always possible in our bigger districts for classified staff, but encourage everyone to be engaged in those conversations of the cost benefit between, $1.50 hourly increase versus considering some benefit support for employees within our districts and our community. So those are a couple things to note in here is when you see those 100% increases, those are new positions we're funding in full, full-time literacy interventionists to help with get us back on track with K-3 literacy, providing the board some data next year in the fall around students that will be identified to receive those services, how we'll deliver those services, what goals we hope to have in increasing for those students with maximizing student proficiency in our K-3 classes. But that individual will also work across K-8 and providing support. So that's why another reason you see discretionary come down a lot is reallocating funds to people, and excited to do that. So just for note, that's kind of where you see those shifts.
Just to clarify, so the full benefits package is something that you will be offering to all staff members moving forward, not just for the upcoming school year.
And that's our intent. I mean, we're always at the mercy of what PPR will do. We found here in the state of Colorado that we were prosperous through the pandemic economically. And so while we took an initial adjustment in that first year out of a state of fear, which many of us were functioning from. We have recovered from that, and hopefully we continue to see increases in PPR. And if we continue to see those, that'd be certainly something we will have present.
We do have signed contracts from these three people, the three people who are on staff now. We're pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's just great. Benefits is really smart. Thank you. I'm taking care of people. That's really great. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Just really appreciate you thinking about the benefits. And I know all of our districts are working to get, I keep looking at you as a district, but you know what I mean? Like, I know we're all talking about raising the pay of our lowest paid workers. So that's a discussion that's happening across all of our districts. So thanks for that. All right. If there's no other questions, thank you as always, Julie. So, and I know you're always available to meet individually with anybody who might have any questions. Our next item for discussion is the IGA renewal, and I will turn it over to Chad again.
All right. Some folks would call this Chad business. We got business to do. We're going to do it. We're going to take care of kids. We're going to take care of staff. You as board members are the client. You as board members are the decision maker. We as staff have served you in preparing up to this point. Our councils have served us up to preparing for this point. And so I just want to honor that you are that decision-making body that will take this back to your groups. And I hope that today gets us to that point over what has been great conversation and dialogue and discussion in service of this partnership, in service of our kids in our community. So I'm going to jump right in. We did have a flurry of communication late into the evening last night. I have printed those. Want to go through this. You have a copy of the redlined agreement. For those board members in digital land, we are referring to that copy as we go through this. So you have a clean and you have a red line. I would pull up that red line document accordingly. We're going to go through those red lines pretty quickly as a group. And then we're going to go through 3 points that were presented from council last night for this board to discuss. And any language change we will note, and then we will take this forward for a vote of this board. That vote is to submit it to your boards as a complete document. So we're hopefully getting to the place today where we are finished sending this back through revision with 6 bodies of districts and business and working on this. We could continue tweaking this for another period of 60 months, but we're trying to get this initiated for 60 months. So I think we're there. So quickly on the first page, the agreement of the districts has been recommended to continue for a duration of 5 years. So the agreement would be effective from 22 through 27. Any discussion from board around that notation? Okay. Moving to the next red line on page 3, simply taking a look at a couple deleteds and cleanups, simply the words students, sponsoring district of residence, and subsection 9A referencing the allocation of spots above. Any discussion of those red line cleanups? Great. Moving on to page 4, once again, you will see grammatical slash edits that have been made. Students, subsection, capital letters, referring to correct numeric alignment with changes. Any discussion on 4? Okay, on 5, we see the same thing again as schools grammatically cleaned up. We go to page 7, and we are going to reference this as notable for discussion. And I'm going to reference Council of the Cherry Creek School District's commentary last evening, Ms. Sonia McKenzie, and wanted additional clarification of this group for discussion. Specifically, section 14, student fee. What has been recommended of council as they have went through this document is that RMSEL will cover fee waivers for students meeting the federal standards for free and reduced lunch. We currently have that in operation for our students, and it is important to our district partnership that we're calling that a fee waiver and not a scholarship. We have no disagreement with that as a position of school staff, and we can fund that. That is to ensure that all qualifying students have access to those. All qualifying students will have access to those, and those are funded from the current fee structure in place, of which we have had an excess of remaining funds over the past few years. So we are able to do this. Council from Creek simply wanted us to articulate how that was funded, and that we would be able to do this with fidelity. So we feel that we can. So Ann, I'll defer to you if you had any additional commentary on the district's behalf, or any commentary from the board around this, which is more notable.
So yes, we just wanted clarification because we know that that was a departure from the discussion last month where we had talked about increasing the student fees section. So we just wanted clarification on where that funding was coming from.
Perfect. That funding comes from the 12% that we retain from all student fees across the board collected. And then if we were to need additional fees, we can take that from the discretionary line item in our budget, which is robust there. And then RMSEL working to fund additional waivers or scholarships for those that do not qualify to have financial barriers. We're able to fund that from our discretionary account specific to those folks that have in-year hardships of note, families that may have unemployment experiences or take on additional family members or some type of medical change in their community. So we are able to do that with fidelity. We do not feel that there'll be any programmatic loss or decline in the work that we do here to make this work.
Okay, thank you.
Any notes of the board around this additional?
No, we agree.
Okay, great.
I'm sorry, I should have looked at everybody else. Just like, I agree. Anybody else have any comments or?
Yeah, and I'll just say that I think the language around the waivers, I think that was really smart and really strategic. And I think that is sending a clear message to folks
Exactly.
that, again, it's not something like an additional process that they would have to go through. It's, you know, this will be waived for them. Very strategic.
Yeah, thank you, Chad.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you
Yeah.
to your council for support on that. The next series of deletes that you'll see in the right-hand margin are numeric cleanups of numerically aligning the document with the changes that have been made. So nothing of substance on 8, nothing of substance on 9, as that subsection goes from 21 to 22. Then go to page 10. Once again, a reference clarification to paragraph. And then we go to page 11, simply a numeric cleanup and change. And then we go to page 12. Actually, looking for something here really quickly. Okay. Pardon me, my delay here real quick. I'm looking for something very specific and not seeing it. Oh, yep. My apologies.
No, that's
Let's
okay.
flip back to page 8 here real quick. I didn't catch this in the notes. So I do want to reference discussion last night from one of our district councils under page 8, line item number 20. There was a change here to the word Black Excellence Plan, and the words Black were replaced with students of color in the title subsection and the corresponding first sentence. that recommendation was made from council with the intent to ensure that RMSEL is a diverse community serving all students, as well as targeting students from demographics who have been historically underserved. That in the original document, which all districts had previously agreed to, stated a Black Excellence Plan, and RMSEL will create a Black Excellence Plan. For those of you in our community, this is very important to one of our district partners, specifically the Denver Public School District. And I'm going to read something of relevance here from their general counsel, and I believe Carrie can clarify as well and clarify our position at RMSEL. It says, in DPS, we define Black expansively to include our multi-race students who include Black as part of their identity. It also includes our multilingual learners who are Black. The purpose of the Black Excellence Plan is not to be overly prescriptive on definitions. The purpose is to look closely at the data of your school's Black students and develop a plan that is uniquely tailored to those Black students and their needs. To be Black is not a universal experience, and a school should consider their unique school context. I understand the position of the recommendation of the district and council that supported this change from a position of inclusivity. I also support the relevance and of importance of this terminology that DPS is recommending, that we keep this to be their Black Excellence Plan. We serve over 50% of students from the Denver metro community. We know that our Black students have been underserved within the Denver metro community, statistically achieving at rates below their peers. I support our partner in DPS in making sure that this returns to the original language of Black Excellence Plan, knowing that in further subsections, we also have language around serving gifted and talented students, serving students who are second language learners. This is a very inclusive document and a lot of inclusive statements in here, but I really support our original position that we were accepting and willing to work on constructing this plan in conjunction with Denver's template and partnership and guidance. So the position of the school as a recommendation is to retain that original language. But as I said, I'm a employee of the board as is our councils. So I bring that to you all as the client. My recommendation would be to return to the original language, would open that for discussion of district members virtually or here in person.
I'd like to.
Can I just
Yes.
say
I would
we are not.
to you, Anne. Oh, go ahead, Anne.
We are not in agreement with the original language. We support equity across all people of color, students of color, and we do believe that this is exclusionary language. So we want to go with what we had proposed last night, which is to include students of color across the board, not singling out one particular race. We also have concerns about how that data is disaggregated in terms of how students and families identify their racial profile. And we are not in agreement with singling out just the Black students of color in that.
I'd like to open it up to any of my other board colleagues for comments.
I think for me, I appreciate the discussion, and I appreciate the emphasis that Cherry Creek School District has on making sure that language is expansive. And I also believe that, specifically naming the Black Excellence Plan, I know that there's been a lot of time and effort and thought that went into that plan at district level in DPS, and in part it's recognizing the inequities that exist, particularly for Black students and how they're served systemically in the education system. So I propose that we stick with that initial language, and we look for opportunities to, as you're mentioning, Chad, to identify, more expansive language throughout. But I think this is a very specific plan in a very specific community that that deserves attention too.
Thank you. Angela?
I
did you-
like the inclusive language that you're.
Becky?
Yes. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear hardly anything Nichelle said.
Actually, I think it was Anne. Anne was sharing that Anne shared that her district would like to stick with the students of color. Angela shared that as well. And then Brianna suggested we stick with the Black Excellence Plan. And I know this is all
Okay.
last minute, and some of you might need to go back and speak with your board colleagues before you weigh in on this, but I just wanted to get initial sense, and then we can go to Nichelle.
Okay, and I'm gonna say right now, probably stick with the word color.
Nichelle, is there any, I don't know if you're still with us, but if you are, if you'd like to share anything.
Yes, I'm still here. I just haven't had enough time to process. I
Sure.
think, language matters, and I'll have to, convene with my colleagues and get back to you all. But thank you.
That's fair. And again, I'm sorry, I didn't alert any of you to this. I was actually asleep before all this happened last night. So I did not have a chance to get everybody up to speed. Obviously, Denver Public Schools believe strongly we should stick with the Black Excellence Plan. We've done a lot of work since we passed the resolution in 2019, I think, 18, around highlighting specifically and the impacts of being Black in our country, especially in our districts, and a way to address anti-Blackness. And what we found is that when schools focus on their Black students, everyone is lifted up and their achievement improves for all students. And you're right with the identifying of how do students identify as Black? We only have 5 categories. I think that comes from the federal government, but in reality, there's a lot of intersectionality of who students are. And I know that our general counsel also had shared that, well, it might be called the Black Excellence Plan. RMSEL has demonstrated that they're spotlighting not just Black students, but students of Asian and Pacific Islander descent, Indigenous students, students who speak Spanish, and that we would trust that the school would continue to do that. And perhaps we could add in extra language, but you're right in saying that the Black Excellence Plan is something that we require of all of our schools across governance type in Denver Public Schools to complete. And they can add in extra language and mention how they're addressing other students of color in that, but the highlight is on Black students, just due to what research has proven, how students who identify as Black experience public schools. But I recognize that this will be something we need to go back and speak to our boards about.
So do you think that the language that's in there now that says students of color, if we change it to the Black Excellence Plan, are we leaving out those Asian students? I know you said when we're focusing on that, yes, we all rise,
Right.
But is that more encompassing and inclusive of all students of color?
I think, and again, I haven't had a whole lot of time to process this either. So I agree with you, Nichelle. It needs to be a little more time, especially since this seems to be that this might be a sticking point. We have I should have sent around a plan to all of you when we first started discussing this, but it's a process that schools go to talk about how they're addressing this. And I think that in order for my board to approve this plan, we would need to stick to the Black Excellence Plan. And we could add in extra language to talk about how we're addressing other students of color. But because we require all of our schools who are in our building, charter schools, innovation zone schools, traditional schools, no matter who you are, everybody creates a Black Excellence Plan. And we have a team that supports that. And RMSEL could also take advantage of some of the supports that we get through that. And it also, there's the equity experience that RMSEL could also participate in, where their staff does training. A lot of other things that I know Chad's already working on.
Would the board support if the name stays the same and there is further language explaining how this would be inclusive of additional diverse groups? So if we went back to the name, we name it the Black Excellence Plan because that is something that is required of all Denver public schools, anyone operating within their facilities. We understand that as a school community here. And then we could add some additional clarifying language to item number 20. Would that be of consideration of the board for Coulter and myself to work on very quickly?
Yes, and I would say again, to re-emphasize, I'm going to try to project my voice for joining virtually. So I think going back to the language again, like I'm in support of that, and I think the purpose, is not just compliance, but I think that it also requires some really some intentional internal sort of interrogation of what anti-Blackness has looked like throughout our education system. So I think it's like, yes, and may change because that's what DPS is asking for. And it's also, I believe that is what's right to center, again, the Black community who has been disproportionately impacted when we're looking at discipline, when we're looking at how the community has been served across the board. I think, again, that is the ultimate intention and purpose of centering Black excellence. So
If I could just jump into, we're not ready to move on that right now. So if we like to work with our district or perhaps Coulter and our general counsel could work together on some of that language, but we're not ready to move on that language as it's currently stated. We value equity. Obviously, it's one of our main pillars in our district, but we also look at equity through a larger lens. So just wanted to make sure that I've clarified our position on that.
Sure. Okay, well, I think I have enough to take back to Coulter to submit to the group for further cleanup. So we won't have action on this today, but this will remain in discussion. The notes that I have is retaining the name of the plan that we would be using and working with, and adding additional pillars of equity to support diverse communities, working with our council to then work with the council of the districts to get further clarification on additional details here. Is the board okay with that as a next step for action? And I don't have presentations tomorrow, so I will make that the priority of tomorrow's work.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, moving forward. Sorry for that, having to flip back there. The last item of significance, if we go to page 13, is under termination.
Sorry.
There's clarifying language here in the deleted notes in the right-hand margin. There's clarifying information in the subsections A and B. Specifically to note the discussion from council last evening, the discussion of boards is the Board of Education of any sponsoring district may terminate the agreement by notifying the BOCES of its intention to withdraw from the agreement by November 1st of any year. Such notice shall be in writing and shall operate to terminate the agreement effective as of the end of the fiscal year following the year in which notice is given. Any currently enrolled student from said terminating sponsoring district may remain enrolled at RMSEL through the end of the current school year. What was deleted was specifically graduations and siblings of currently enrolled students from a terminating sponsoring district shall continue to have priority enrollment in the lottery, and if enrolled, may remain enrolled throughout their graduation. So the question here for the board of consideration is what this language change promotes is Districts and students participating in the partnership have access to the partnership at a priority. That's how the lottery is currently structured. In the event a student would apply to RMSEL as an out-of-district student, they may do that under state open enrollment, as they do in your districts. And in your districts, open enrolled students are guaranteed for that year and have to return annually for that. Now, do I believe most districts with open enrollment unilaterally enroll those kids to return from working in two large districts? I think that happens as a practice. What the board would have to make a determination on here is if the board is willing, in the event one of our 5-member partners was to depart the agreement and or terminate after the agreement was initiated, if we would retain those students from that district and provide them continued preference of enrollment over students on a wait list who would not be accessing that spot due to the partnership. And then this idea of continuing to give sibling preference would mean, while rare, you may have a high school student from a district that would be no longer part of the partnership. We would say that student continues through graduation because we would support that continuity. But if we gave that child's family a sibling preference and say they had a second grader, now that student is coming in from a non-sponsoring district, taking a sponsoring district student spot, and that student would be getting a sibling preference throughout. So this language is more so around lifting up those members that elect to participate in this partnership and providing priority to those members, students who participate in the partnership. We're certainly not a place that wants to kick kids out of school. However, there is a commitment from your districts to participation in this BOCES, and this language gives priority to those participants accordingly. So this can be changed, adjusted, it can be returned to the original language. Some councils have reflected that they support that return to allowing a student to participate through graduation, but not giving the sibling preference to an out-of-district student. Certainly would be open to the board's perspective on this. This change is really around recommending that if you're participating in the partnership, those students should have priority access to this educational opportunity. If the board is in disagreement with that, we can make adjustments accordingly. So I'll open it to discussion at this time.
So this is Anne. We are concerned about the kids, the students in this, honestly. For instance, elementary school kids are fairly, adaptable. These kinds of changes, if they're done at the end of the year, might not be catastrophic to them. But think about a 7th grader or an 8th grader who's in that time of their life ready to move on if they are just done at the end of the year. I guess if we want to look at how that could affect a student's life, could be very detrimental. Those are our concerns. So I think we would be in support of letting a student continue till they were ready to graduate, if that's what they needed to do, but not necessarily grandfathering in the siblings at that point.
Any other board members have any comments, questions?
This is Michelle. I'd agree with that as well. To honor that student's career at RMSEL, but not necessarily grandfathered. Not the sibling piece would be the part that the participating districts get the priority in.
Anybody else? Strong opinions? That feels reasonable to me as well.
Okay, we will make that language change. So to conclude this discussion, items to take back, hopefully for finalized clean draft will be to take another look at subsection 20, students of color excellence plan or students, Black excellence plan, adding additional language around equity goals and serving diverse communities to, I think, lift up the values of our partnership with Denver Public Schools, as well as our multi-district partnership around this lens of equity, the voice of the room, the voice of the community, the voice of the metro area is how do we best serve underserved communities, and we would like that language to reflect that, and I believe we can get there. And then the second piece is cleanup. We believe that allowing students to continue through graduation is important, but in the event of a terminating partner district, that there would be no lottery preferences provided to future incoming students, would provide a balance there. So while we're not finished, we're really close. I commend everyone for their work, their perspective on this. As I said, I have presentations on Thursday. Tomorrow creates a little bit more flexible time. I will work on the language. I will work with Coulter, and we need a tight turnaround on this. So I'm going to get this to councils no later than Thursday morning, and as well as to board members to get some approval and agreement on this for moving forward, if the board is in service of that work.
You'll have it to us by Thursday morning, but then this collective, when do we come back to agree on it to take it back to our boards for approval?
We come back together again on June 7th, which is a relatively quick turnaround, but I would also propose, if the board would be willing to, we could convene digitally with a sole individual item of a special meeting
I think
at said time. As early as next week, we need to post the announcement in advance, post that we would be convening. If the board would be willing to accept that, if district councils feel like we got the language correct, as soon as I get that go ahead, I'll extend a special meeting to the group.
That would be good. For our board in Wilton to approve it, we would have to have that before that June 7th meeting.
Okay. Is anyone, while we're here together, if we were to have a special meeting on May 31st, which would be held in Zoom digital, is there any opposition to tentatively scheduling that time?
I
That's
know
the
that I'm
Tuesday.
not going to be around and probably not able to get on Zoom. We're actually on vacation.
Okay. Would it be possible, Becky, to have another representative from your board participate in that with ample notice?
I can ask this morning. I'll see if maybe David or someone can come in for me.
Great, thank you.
that would work for 7 a.m. Would that be? It's the Tuesday after Memorial Day, but I think we can all rally for one item and get it done.
Turn our cameras off.
If it would be helpful, we could do it a little bit later because
That's fine.
school's not in session.
That's fine.
So we usually have these early for driving, and then because of school being in session, we could do like 9 that day if that would work better for those of us not on vacation. 9 Tuesday the 31st.
Yes, and can you all send a calendar invite as well?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Chad and I talked about that, and we're going to try and get that
Yep.
all together for next year. He did a great job for the rest of this year, but we know that more and more people are relying on their electronic calendars, so that's always helpful. So thank you, Chad, for doing that.
Okay, we'll have something together within 24 hours, back out, and hopefully for the 31st.
Great, thank you. Thank you to all my board colleagues for the good discussion. Next on our agenda, we have a report item from Julie Stelzer, and we are going to get the budget report.
Okay, so kind of out of order here.
Okay.
A lot of the things that are on here as variances from budget were corrected on the supplemental budget that was voted on during consent. There isn't much to report in here. Probably the biggest thing that isn't in here, we are still waiting on $319,000 remittance from CDE for our ESSER II funds. I continue to call them every single week. It has moved in the past 2 weeks out of approval through payment, and evidently payment is back office, they don't take calls. So I'm kind of in this limbo. So that is the biggest thing that's not in here. Everything else is pretty standard stuff. We're getting our funding monthly. We've seen already all of the ALPA funding, the budget appropriation resolution for the $450,000 rollover, REDAC funding, BOCES funding, all those things are pretty much standard. Everything on the back page, the second page, and the third page, those things are corrected. That's the supplemental budget that you just approved. So unless there are any questions specifically about the financial statements that are attached, I will say one thing. You're going to see on, you don't see them on this one because this says as of April 30, but as of the May 31, which we don't report in June, you would see a whole lot of prepaid fees for the coming year. So that amount is going, it's not just the $300, it's going to be substantially higher than that with the families that are paying in full and the ones who are taking advantage of the early bird registration. I've been really surprised by all the people who want that $50 in that sweatshirt.
Well,
So-
you've hit on something that works. That's
So,
good. That helps you a
anyway,
lot,
well,
plan,
it
I'm sure.
it shifts our work, it splits it. If we can get a third, half of them done now, that saves that time. It's so crazy in July and August. So that's kind of our.
Perfect.
If there's any other questions on this?
All right. Thank you, as always.
Go ahead, Carrie, and then I'm gonna send a invite to the executive
Okay.
session that is digital to the board working group right now.
So the next item on our agenda is the evaluation of the executive director for the school year 2021 to 2022. And we will convene an executive session for that. So it is now time for us to move into executive session for the conferences for the purpose of discussing the executive director evaluation pursuant CRS, let me make sure I have the right, CRS 24-4024F, evaluation of the executive director. The board will be discussing the evaluation for the school year 2021 to 2022. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
I move to move into executive session.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Chris, please call roll. I think you call roll.
Carrie Olson.
Aye.
Angela Christensen. Brianna Mestis. Becky Myers.
Aye.
Ann Egan.
Aye.
Michelle Ortiz.
She might have had to drop off.
I'm here. I'm having a hard time hearing. This is Michelle Ortiz.
Aye, perfect. So we will now move into executive session. Board members, Chad will be sending you a new link for that Zoom link, and the rest of us will just stay here. So, and then for our viewing audience, we will return to to discuss the item for a future agenda and then adjournment.
Okay.
See you in the new Zoom room.
Yep, hold
You
on.
guys okay if I bow out? I've got to get ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah, we still have
that's
a
fine.
quorum.
We still have a quorum. Say that again.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll stay in here. Okay, I
Okay.
think, yeah. I was just gonna say legally,
You can invite folks,
First of all, I
but
want
yes.
to read that.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me get the Zoom link here. Meetings.
Yes, thank you. Sure. Yep. Yeah, we can take a little second here to.
Things that are great for you to send to when
Perfect.
you get to it.
My autograph, not a problem. Happy to do it. All right. Sounds good.
Okay, everyone, you have the link, just went through to email, 2 corresponding documents. We're going to close this meeting and we will open the next one.
There's such beautiful diplomas.